Hello, everyone. Tonight, we dive into a story that starts with something so ordinary, you'd never see the storm coming. A polite smile and a quiet goodbye. But sometimes, those are the calmest moments right before your entire world flips upside down. I'll warn you now, you might not survive the quiet parts of this story without feeling that pit in your stomach, the kind that sneaks up on you when family stops feeling like family. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing how far these little late-night whispers travel. Now turn off the lights, maybe get a fan going for some soft noise, and let's dive into tonight's journey together. He looked me in the eye and said it so casually, like he was asking for the salt at dinner. "We don't really have space for you here anymore." I smiled, nodded once, and left without a word. What Ryan didn't know, and what I was careful not to remind him of in that moment, was that by the time the sun came up, he and his picture-perfect wife would be on the verge of losing the house. Because what they conveniently forgot is that I owned half of it. It didn't start like this, of course. Stories like these never do. It started with love. It started with hope. It started with me standing in my tiny old living room, handing over the check that represented every ounce of security I had left the full payout from Mark's life insurance. Mark, my husband. He was quiet, steady, the kind of man who could fix a leaky sink or balance a budget, but couldn't for the life of him figure out how to program the coffee machine. We were married 33 years before cancer stole him from me. His insurance policy. That was supposed to be our safety net for retirement. But Ryan needed it more. Or at least that's what I told myself. He and Olivia were newlyweds ambitious, living on love and caffeine and drowning in student loans. They had their hearts set on a 4-bedroom house in Greenville, a suburb with manicured lawns, cookie-cutter homes, and homeowners association newsletters about garage door colors. Their mortgage fell short. The bank told them no, and I stepped in. I gave them $180,000. No hesitation, no questions, just, here. It's your future. Our family's stability. That's what I told them. Olivia hugged me so tight, it almost knocked the air out of me. She smelled like expensive shampoo and possibility. "We'll never forget this, Carla," she whispered. "You'll always have a home with us." Ryan kissed my cheek, eyes shining like the little boy I raised, and promised, "You'll never have to lift a finger again, Mom." And for a little while, it was good. The house was modern. Cold. That showroom kind of clean where you're scared to breathe wrong. White walls, gray floors, sleek kitchen that looked like no one had ever dared burn toast in it. My room downstairs naturally was technically the guest suite. Twin bed, no closet, half bath, no shower. Barely enough space for me and the faded quilt I brought from my old bedroom. But I didn't complain. I was just happy to hear voices in the house again, to drink coffee at a table that wasn't empty. The first week, Ryan made me coffee every morning, just like he promised. Olivia showed me how to use their Wi-Fi thermostat, though she huffed every time I needed help with it. We had dinner together exactly once. Chicken stir-fry and awkward small talk. I chalked it up to adjustment, but by week 2, the whispers started. Not the kind you hear directly, the ones that float down from upstairs when they think you're outside. Passive-aggressive jokes to friends. 2 kids and a grandma, that's our household now. Olivia laughed one night. Ryan groaned when I asked if I could put up a shelf in the laundry room. Then came the little changes. The upstairs fridge got a padlock. Olivia's excuse, meal prepping. Cute. The Wi-Fi modem mysteriously relocated to the locked upstairs office. My Netflix account stopped working for 3 days. I let it slide. I smiled. I kept cooking, folding towels, wiping counters, giving them space. I smiled even when Olivia floated the idea of turning the downstairs den, my only quiet spot, into a nursery someday. But then, I heard it. I was walking towards the kitchen to make tea when I caught Ryan's voice from around the corner. "She won't leave if we keep being nice. We've got to push her out without a fight." Olivia's reply sliced sharper than glass. "She won't sign her share over unless she feels unwanted. Make it uncomfortable. She'll leave herself." I froze. Right there, staring at the wallpaper I helped them pick out 6 days earlier. my only child, scheming to force me out, for convenience, for more space, for a nursery. That evening, I made Ryan's favorite chicken Alfredo. Neither of them came to the table. Olivia claimed she already ate. Ryan mumbled about work and stayed upstairs. I sat alone, eating slowly, thinking about how I raised him. Soccer games, homework meltdowns, scraped knees. Every birthday card he ever made me tucked away in an old shoebox I still carried. And now I was a calculation, a hurdle. The next morning, as I washed strawberries at the sink, Olivia appeared, arms crossed, face blank. "We think it's time you found your own place," she said. "Your space. For your comfort." Ryan entered moments later, sipping coffee like it was a casual Tuesday. "We don't have space for you anymore, Mom," he added. "You need to go." Just like that. I dried my hands, turned to them both, smiled. "Okay," I said. "I'll be out by tonight." Olivia blinked. Ryan nodded, already turning away like he'd checked off a task. But what they didn't realize was the task wasn't complete. Because tucked away in my old suitcase beneath the quilt beside Mark's photo was a red folder. The house deed, 49% co-ownership. My name side by side with Ryan's. I didn't say goodbye. I packed, ordered a cab, left without a sound. They thought they were rid of me, but the truth, I had just lit the fuse. The cab ride to the motel was quiet. Not the good kind of quiet. The kind that feels like the whole world is holding its breath, waiting for the next shoe to drop. I sat in the back seat, clutching that red folder like it was a newborn baby. My fingers pressed so tight around the edges that when I finally set it down, there were faint pink grooves left in my palms. The driver didn't say much, just clicked through radio stations, all of them playing that tinny pop music that makes your teeth itch. But I didn't care. I wasn't listening to the radio. I was listening to the voice in my head, the one I'd ignored for years. The one that, somewhere deep down, had whispered months ago, "Be ready." The motel was one of those highway-side places that's clean enough not to scare you, but old enough to feel sad. Faded green carpet, lamps that flickered if you touched them wrong. The faint, permanent smell of fried onions clinging to the wallpaper. I paid cash for 3 nights, declined housekeeping. I didn't want anyone seeing what little I had left. That night, I lay on the stiff bed with the TV on mute, staring at the ceiling, the deed resting on my chest like a shield. I wasn't mad. I wasn't even surprised. But I was done. See, there's this thing that happens when you hit a certain age, and it's not just the back pain or the way the checkout kid starts calling you ma'am like it's a disease. It's the quiet realization that the people you raised aren't always the people you thought they'd be. Old age comes with that kind of clarity. The kind you don't ask for, but it shows up anyway, like gray hairs or junk mail. The next morning, I found the motel business center 2 ancient computers with keys so worn the letters were gone, and printed 5 copies of the deed. 1 for me, 1 for a lawyer if it came to that. 3 spares. Because if I've learned anything, it's that proof gets lost faster than loyalty. I was halfway through my second cup of burnt diner coffee when the phone buzzed. Unknown number. I nearly ignored it. But something in me, maybe that same voice that told me to pack the folder, said, "Pick up." "Ms. Becker." The voice was polite, male, southern drawl, just thick enough to sound like honey over sandpaper. "My name's Brad. I'm with Carolina Private Lending. You're listed as a co-owner of a property at 278 Willow Crest Drive." My heart slowed. "Yes," I answered, cautious. "There's been a default," he explained. "Your son, Mr. Ryan Becker, took out a $95,000 business loan using the house as collateral. Payments haven't been made for months." I didn't react, just listened as Brad outlined the details. Turns out Ryan's big marketing startup, the one he bragged about every holiday, collapsed. 3 months in, took the loan down with it. Olivia either didn't know or was playing dumb. Both options made my stomach twist. Brad kept it professional but clear. Foreclosure proceedings would begin Friday unless the loan was resolved. "You have options," he said gently. "You could pay off the loan, or you could release your claim. Let the house go." I asked him to email me everything. When it arrived, I didn't hesitate. I took out the same blue pen I used to sign Ryan's first school permission slip and wrote my name across every line, slow, deliberate, steady. Then I scanned the forms and sent them back. Within the hour, Brad called to confirm receipt. "Foreclosure will proceed," he said. "Thank you, Ms. Becker." I hung up without another word, sat on the bed, phone off, eyes on the ceiling. Ryan was about to learn what it felt like to be left without warning. I didn't tell anyone, didn't cry, didn't call my sister, didn't vent in a church group. I just sat in that motel room and listened to the silence I'd been denied for years. Later that afternoon, I walked 2 blocks to a tiny corner grocery store, bought peanut butter crackers, instant coffee, and small luxury a bottle of wine. That night, I toasted myself. Not for revenge, not for victory, for finally realizing I was never going to be treated like family again. So I might as well start treating myself like someone who mattered. Here's a fun fact for you, by the way. Peanut butter. Technically, it never expires. They found jars still good after over a decade. It lasts longer than most apologies. At 8 a.m. sharp, my phone buzzed again. A text from Ryan. Did you cancel something with the house? We just got a weird letter from a lender. I didn't answer. 3 hours later, a second text. There's a notice on the door. Call me. Still, I said nothing. At 3:17 p.m., Olivia's name lit up the screen. Carla, please. We're confused. Just tell us what's going on. I turned the phone off. Not to be cruel. To stay sane. Because if I heard one more fake plea from the woman who tried to erase me, I might forget that silence is the sharpest weapon of all. Funny thing about public debate these days, everyone's so eager to tell their side of the story until the receipts start showing up. And mine? Well, they were stacked, signed, and ready. The foreclosure notice hit faster than I expected. Less than 48 hours after I sent the signed release, the sheriff's office taped a bright orange letter to the front door of 278 Willow Crest Drive. I didn't see it myself. I didn't have to. Because Olivia, bless her predictable performative heart, posted a panicked message in the neighborhood Facebook group. Urgent. Our home is being targeted by a scam. Please share resources if you know foreclosure attorneys. The irony made me laugh for the first time in days. I sat in my motel room, drinking motel brewed coffee from a paper cup, scrolling quietly through her public meltdown. People flooded the comments. Old coworkers, neighbors, even Ryan's college buddy Marcus. What happened? Can we help? I thought you guys were doing so well. Olivia, ever the suburban politician, responded to each one with vague hardship platitudes. We're being betrayed by someone we trusted, she wrote. Someone who should have protected us. That's when it shifted. From comedy to something darker. Because within hours, my phone buzzed with texts from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Cousins, church ladies, my late husband's sister. All asking the same thing. Carla, what's going on? Megan had framed me as the villain, but they didn't know. The story wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because of guilt. Not even because of anger. Because I knew what was coming next, their side of the story. Their carefully crafted version of the truth, complete with soft lighting, sympathetic tears, and a narrative where I was the villain. And right on cue the next morning, it started. My cousin Marcia texted first. Hey, Olivia posted something. I don't know what to think. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened Facebook. There it was. Olivia's profile picture had changed. No more matching Christmas pajamas or beach vacation smiles. Just a black square with the words, "When family betrays you, where do you turn?" The post beneath it was a mile long. All pastel backgrounds and cursive overlays like some tragic inspirational quote set to piano music. She wrote about how they'd opened their home out of love, how they'd taken in a grieving parent and been blindsided by legal trickery. She called it elder abuse. The comments were brutal. Some people just want to control their kids forever. This is why boundaries matter. You're so strong, Olivia. Sending prayers. I scrolled, biting the inside of my cheek so hard it ached. Then I saw it. Ryan's comment. An old photo of us, him and me when he was maybe 6, covered in chocolate ice cream, beaming at the camera. His caption, "It's hard when the people who raised you end up turning on you." No names, no direct accusations, just manipulation. Classic. See, that's the thing about public opinion. It doesn't care about facts. It cares about feelings. And Ryan knew how to play those strings like a violin. I thought for one brief moment about defending myself, about posting the deed, the loan documents, the texts I overheard. But then I remembered something my grandfather used to say. Don't roll around in the mud with pigs. You'll only get dirty. And they'll enjoy it. So I stayed silent until the phone call came. It was the sheriff's department. A polite, tired-sounding man named Officer Reynolds. "Ms. Becker," he began. "Just a courtesy call. There will be a formal lockout scheduled at Willowcrest this Friday at 10 a.m. You're not required to be present since you've signed off, but we wanted to notify you as a listed party." I thanked him, hung up, and stared at the motel ceiling for a long, long time. I pictured it the scene I wouldn't be there to witness. Ryan bleary-eyed stumbling to the door. Olivia Mascara running sobbing on the front lawn. Their belongings boxed up, bagged up, scattered across the driveway like casualties. And still, I didn't feel satisfied. Just stillness. They chose this. Every step of it. Friday came. I didn't go anywhere. I stayed in that cramped motel room, made instant oatmeal with the microwave, and waited. At 10:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. Voicemail only, no caller ID. I listened once. Then again. Ryan's voice, low, furious. "I don't know what you did, but we're out. Gone. You ruined us, Mom. Hope you're happy." That was it. No apology, no regret, just blame. Like I had tripped some invisible wire they planted themselves. By noon, Olivia chimed in. Her text was longer. "If you wanted to hurt us, congratulations. We're being evicted. I hope you sleep well tonight. You've destroyed your family." Family. Funny how that word clung to me all day like wet fabric. As if I hadn't been part of that family the minute I stopped being convenient. As if I didn't have the right to walk away from people who used me like a step stool. I turned off the phone, walked down to the corner store, bought a notebook. On the first page I wrote, "Today, they lost everything." And for the first time in a long while, I found my silence. It didn't last long. 2 days after the lockout, Olivia posted again. A full Instagram breakdown. 10 slides, pastel background, cursive text. When family betrays you, each slide told her version of the truth. They had sheltered me out of love. They were blindsided. They were victims of legal manipulation. And naturally, she called it elder abuse again. The comments were worse this time. "Narcissistic parents are so dangerous. Your mother-in-law sounds unhinged. Sending you strength, Mama." I scrolled, found Ryan's comment. "You did everything right. You protected our future. She chose destruction." I stared at that for a long, long time. Not because it hurt, but because I couldn't believe how easily he lied. There was a time he'd cry if I so much as scolded him for missing curfew. Now he painted me as a monster to strangers. Still, I said nothing. It wasn't over, not even close. The next morning, I woke up to a knock on the motel door. I didn't move at first. Hesitation is sometimes protection. A second knock. I cracked the door an inch. It was a woman, mid-50s, vaguely familiar. "Ms. Becker," she asked. "I'm Diane. I work with the City Housing Board. I saw some posts. Figured I'd hear your side." We sat in the motel lobby. Lukewarm coffee. Vending machine humming nearby. I told her everything. The money, the dinners, the insults, the manipulation. She didn't take notes. "I'm not press," she said. "I'm just tired of good people getting smeared by influencers with matching throw pillows." She handed me her card. "If you need help finding permanent housing, call me. I've got strings I can pull." It was the first kindness I'd felt in weeks. That night, I opened my email. Subject: request for interview, Greenville Local Magazine. I closed the laptop without reading further. I wasn't ready to tell my story. Not yet. But I did forward it to myself with the subject changed. Hold on to this. I wasn't finished. They weren't either. And neither of us saw what was coming next. It didn't take long for Olivia to escalate. Because with people like her, when the sympathy well starts running dry, they dig deeper. They perform harder. The TikTok video hit my inbox 2 days later. No warning. Just a link from my cousin Marcia with the message, "You seeing this?" I tapped it, and there she was. Olivia standing in front of a U-Haul mascara smudged just right, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Evicted by my mother-in-law." The caption, a tragic little plea. When the people who are supposed to protect you turn their backs, what do you do? Her voice cracked at all the right moments. The baby bump on full display. Sad piano music in the background. 80,000 views in 2 days. The comments? Oh, they were something else. "You poor thing. This is elder abuse in reverse. Someone start a GoFundMe." I scrolled and scrolled. And then, the last straw. A text from Pastor Greg, our old church pastor. A man who in theory had known me since Ryan was in diapers. "Carla, What is going on? Can I call you? That's when I snapped out of my silence. See, there's only so much dirt you can let pile up on your name before it becomes quicksand. So I gathered the receipts, the deed with both our names, the bank statement showing the $180,000 transfer, the email from Brad confirming foreclosure proceedings, Megan's text from weeks ago. Once she's gone, we can finally plan the nursery. I screenshot everything, sent it to Pastor Greg, to my cousins, to the church ladies group chat. No commentary. Just proof. 5 minutes later, my niece replied, "Oh, so she lied to everyone." Silence after that. No one defended her. No one piped up to twist the story. But they saw it. They knew. The thread had broken. That evening, my phone buzzed again. "Ryan, please call me. Just talk to me." 10 minutes later. "I know things got bad, but you're still my mom." I didn't respond. Not because I hated him, but because some bridges, they don't burn all at once. Some crumble piece by piece every time someone you love decides you're disposable. I stared at the phone for a long while. Then I locked it, slid it into the nightstand drawer, whispered under my breath, "Still your mom, but not your fool." For the first time in months, I slept a full 8 hours. The next morning, flowers, white lilies, the kind Ryan used to bring home from the grocery store when he was a teenager trying to apologize for denting the car or flunking a quiz. They sat outside the motel door. Cheap glass vase. No note. Just that. I didn't touch them. Didn't bring them in. By morning, they'd started to wilt. The front desk clerk noticed. "You want me to toss these?" Yes. That afternoon, the knock came. "Ryan, in person? No warning?" Just standing there around 2 p.m. saying, "Mom, it's me. Can we talk?" I stared at him through the peephole for a long, long minute. He looked tired, pale. The kind of pale that comes from sleepless nights and bad decisions catching up to you. "Against my better judgment," I cracked the door. 5 minutes, I said. He nodded like a scolded kid being handed a second chance. We sat at the motel's little round table by the window. Awkward, silent, heavy. I watched him try to figure out which version of himself to be. Finally, he settled on quiet and sad. "I messed up," he began. "I should have told you about the loan. I shouldn't have let Olivia talk to you like that." I panicked. I stayed quiet. Waited. Then, the classic play. "She's pregnant," he added. Like that explained it all. We were scared. I looked at him, really looked, and for a split second, I saw the boy who used to cry when I left for night shifts. But that boy was long gone. This was a man who'd thrown me out of my own investment, painted me as a villain online. "I didn't come to argue," he said. I was wondering if you'd be willing to sign a document. Nothing big, just something to help us negotiate with the lender. Get back on track." That was the moment my gut screamed. He hadn't changed. He wasn't here for peace. He was here because he still thought I was a lever he could pull when desperate. "Show me," I said. He hesitated, pulled out a manila folder, handed me the paper. I read it once, twice. It wasn't just a consent form. It was a partial power of attorney disguised in legal jargon. It would have given him limited access to manage the foreclosure proceedings, which meant access to my accounts, my retirement fund. I set the paper down. "Get out," I said. He blinked, confused. "Mom, out!" He stood, slow, like he thought one more line could salvage this. "We're going to lose the baby's future, Mom." I looked him dead in the eye. "You already did." He left without another word. I locked the door behind him, stood there, palms pressed to the wood, until my hands stopped shaking. Then I called the motel front desk, asked to be moved. Different floor, different hallway. They didn't ask why. I packed everything I had in 15 minutes, changed rooms before dinner, blocked Ryan's number that night, not out of anger, out of self-protection. Because the cruelest lie is the one you keep telling yourself. Maybe they mean it this time, but they never do. And I wasn't falling for it anymore. The next morning, I woke up early, earlier than usual. Maybe it was nerves. Maybe it was the cheap motel mattress finally giving up on me. Or maybe it was clarity. I dressed, pulled my old cardigan around me, and walked down to the city housing office. The card Diane gave me was still in my wallet, edges soft from my constant fidgeting with it over the past few days. The building was quiet, a little outdated, fluorescent lights that buzzed just enough to annoy you, but not enough to complain. I found Diane at her desk sipping coffee from a chipped World's Okayest Employee mug. She looked up as I approached and smiled like she'd been expecting me. "Ms. Becker," she greeted. "I was wondering when I'd see you again." I slid the card across her desk. "I want to move on," I said. "Not just from them, from all of it." She didn't say "I'm proud of you." She didn't toss around empty affirmations. She just reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder. Senior Housing Coastal Options. The first page was a 2-bedroom condo listing near Wilmington. Porch. Ocean access. Rent I could cover with my pension. Small, but bright. Quiet. I circled it without hesitation. "This one?" Diane nodded, jotting down a note. It felt good. Scary, but good. That evening, I got one last email from Olivia. No emojis, no hashtags, no pastel backgrounds. Just raw text. "I don't know what we're supposed to do now. We have nothing. I know you hate me, but think of the baby." I stared at the screen, felt the heat of those words press against my ribs. Then I closed the laptop, made myself a cup of tea, and watched the sun dip behind the motel parking lot. I didn't reply. Not yet, because what I was planning next wasn't a response. It was a reckoning. 3 days passed. Silence. Then Sunday evening, a knock at the door. I was in pajama pants, halfway through a cup of peppermint tea. I peeked through the peephole. Olivia, hair messy, makeup smudged, diaper bag slung over her shoulder, a bundled-up infant in her arms. A tiny squeak came from the blanket. "I didn't open the door, Carla," she called softly. "I'm not here to fight. We don't know what to do anymore." She paused. "Ryan's falling apart. We got kicked out of the rental we found. They said we failed a credit check. Please, can I come in?" I cracked the door 2 inches. Her eyes were red. The baby, a girl, stirred gently, letting out another soft whimper. "Her name's Emily," Olivia whispered. "She's yours too. Don't shut us out." That part hit harder than I expected. I hadn't known the baby's name. I hadn't wanted to. I opened the door. "Let her in." She stepped inside slowly, cautiously, like a stray animal unsure of the rules. She glanced around the tiny motel room, gave a weak smile. "Still like it cold in here, huh?" I didn't respond. She sat carefully on the edge of the bed, bouncing Emily lightly. "We really screwed up," she admitted. I said things I didn't mean. We were stressed, scared." I nodded. Not because I forgave her, but because I wanted her to keep talking. "Ryan's too proud to say it, but he's drowning. We both are. Our accounts are frozen. We owe over 10 grand in late fees. Phones are on borrowed time. I don't know where we go from here." I watched her the whole time. Watched her lower lip quiver. Watched her blink too fast when she talked about how lonely it felt to be erased. Then I saw it. The brand tag still dangling from the diaper bag. I leaned closer. Saw the logo. Posh Baby. A designer line I recognized from a catalog in the motel lobby. Retail price over $900. "That's new," I remarked, pointing at the bag. Olivia flinched. It was a gift, she said too quickly. From a friend. I didn't move. Just stood up slowly. Walked to the window. From there I could see it, a rental car idling at the curb. Black SUV. Not cheap, not broken down, not desperate. "You came here to get something," I said quietly. Olivia stiffened. "I came here to ask for help." "No," I corrected. "You came here to film something." I turned around, fast. "Where is it?" She blinked. Too innocent. "What are you talking about?" "Your phone. Your purse." "Whatever it is. I saw it in the bag's side pocket when you sat down. You're recording this." Her lips parted, closed, opened again. "We just wanted proof," she confessed quietly. "In case you tried to twist things." I stared at her for what felt like a full minute. "Get out," I said. "Carla." "Now." She stood slowly, gathering Emily in her arms. "She's your granddaughter." "No," I corrected. "She's your child. Raise her better than you treat people." Olivia stepped out, back stiff, walked to the car, climbed in. Within seconds, they drove off. I closed the door, locked it, sat on the bed. My hands shook again, but it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline, because I knew exactly what just happened. She came to bait me, to get me to say something cruel on camera, something they could twist, edit, post, for sympathy. But I didn't give it to her. I stayed calm. I wasn't finished, though. Not even close. The next morning, I filed for a temporary restraining order. Included everything: the texts, the attempted manipulation, the motel visit. I even printed a screenshot of the diaper bag's retail price. The courthouse clerk barely blinked. "You're not the first," she said. "You won't be the last." That night, I opened my notebook, wrote one clean sentence: "They brought a baby to play victim." I brought receipts. Then I turned the page, started listing names. People I trusted, people I didn't, people I owed nothing to anymore. Because the next time they came for me, I'd be ready. And they wouldn't see it coming. The restraining order came through 2 days later. A thick envelope with the court seal slid under my motel room door like a final puzzle piece falling into place. I didn't feel triumphant. Not really. I felt prepared. Prepared in that quiet, steady way you get when you've lived long enough to know storms don't always knock politely, they sneak in through cracks you forgot to seal. I made 5 copies of the order, one for the motel front desk, one for the local police station, one for Diane at the housing board, one for myself, and one I mailed to their last known address with a sticky note attached that simply read, "You wanted legal. You got it." That night, I finally opened the email from Greenville Local Magazine. I didn't ask for money, didn't pitch a sob story. I just sent them everything: the deed copy, the $180,000 bank transfer receipt, the foreclosure confirmation, Megan's manipulative text messages, and of course, the photo of the luxury diaper bag. Subject line: "Since they want to talk, let's talk." The editor called me the next morning. Her voice was sharp but steady. The kind that told me she wasn't here for sensationalism, she was here for the truth. "Ms. Becker, we believe you. Would you be willing to go on record?" I told her yes, as long as they included one line from me at the top. "This is not revenge. This is clarity." The piece ran that Sunday, a 3-page spread titled, "When Help Becomes a Weapon, One Mother's Account of Financial Betrayal." It didn't go viral. It didn't crash websites, but it rippled. People in Greenville started talking. Not gossip. Discussion. The same Facebook group where Olivia had wailed about eviction weeks earlier, now filled with debates about housing ethics, inheritance rights, adult children's entitlement. My name, it popped up. Not as a monster, not as a victim, as a person, someone who had been erased and quietly written herself back in. But that wasn't the moment I knew the tide had truly turned. That came the following Friday. I'd started walking to the little coffee shop down the block. Routine small comforts. And there he was, Ryan, sitting alone at a corner table, hoodie pulled low, staring into a paper cup like the answers were floating in the foam. He didn't see me at first. I almost kept walking. But then, he looked up. Our eyes met. He didn't flinch, didn't wave, didn't even blink, just looked. And in that look, I saw it. Not regret, not shame, just distance, the recognition of a bond that no longer existed. I kept walking, but I didn't cry. That night he emailed me. No subject line, just one short message. I read the article. "I won't contact you again. I'm sorry you felt like you had no choice. Not sorry for what he did. Sorry I felt like I had to respond." I archived it, didn't reply. The next morning, the motel manager knocked, handed me a stack of forwarded mail. At the bottom, an envelope from a real estate agency. A sticky note from Diane. "You've been approved. Keys are waiting." Inside, the listing. 2-bedroom condo. 2nd floor. View of the water. Quiet Wilmington complex for retirees and veterans. Move-in date: next Friday. Rent just under budget. I stood there holding the paper and realized I'd stopped checking over my shoulder, stopped flinching at unknown numbers, stopped doubting my right to exist. Without apology. That evening, I updated my will, removed Ryan's name entirely, allocated everything, every penny, every possession to be split between a local women's shelter, a literacy program, and the animal rescue where I used to volunteer. One final email to my lawyer. "If he ever challenges this, send them everything, publicly." I didn't wait for a reply. I knew it would be handled. The final text came that weekend, a number I didn't recognize but immediately knew. "Olivia." 4 words. "We lost everything. Congrats." I read it once, deleted it. No reply, no reaction. Nothing left to say. I spent the evening packing, not because I was running, but because for the first time in years, I'd stopped. They started this story by telling me there wasn't space for me. They ended it by proving I never needed their space at all. The condo was smaller than I pictured, but brighter. The kind of bright where sunlight floods in through windows that don't need heavy curtains, and the white walls feel less like a hospital and more like a blank canvas. I stood in the doorway for a full minute before stepping inside, letting the silence hit me like a gentle breeze. No shouting upstairs, no footsteps pacing in frustration, no passive-aggressive whispers through paper-thin walls. Just space. My space. The movers were late. No surprise there. So I dragged in the essentials first. The red folder with the deed now void. The framed photo of Mark still steady, still watching over me. One small suitcase with the last of my clothes. The rest stayed in the car. I made tea using the ancient kettle the unit came with and wandered out onto the little balcony. The ocean wasn't visible from here, but I could hear it. Waves, faint and steady. That was enough. Here's a quirky fact for you scientists. Say the sound of ocean waves triggers your brain's prefrontal cortex to relax. It's literally nature's white noise machine. Standing there listening, I finally understood. My phone stayed on silent that week. I didn't check social media. Didn't call old friends to explain. I just unpacked, one drawer at a time. Filled the fridge with things I actually wanted to eat. Watered the 2 little plants I bought at a roadside market, on the way down a scruffy basil plant and a peace lily because poetic, I guess. On Wednesday, I took a walk along the boardwalk. Nobody recognized me. Nobody stared. I passed a bookstore, a tiny pier, and a seafood shack where a woman about my age sat painting seashells at a folding table. She smiled as I approached. "Pick one that calls to you," she said, waving her hand over the colorful display. I chose a small blue shell with silver edges. "Good choice," she grinned. "That one's for people who've just let go of something heavy." I thanked her, slipped the shell into my coat pocket. That night, I placed it on the kitchen counter beside my keys. I named it Peace. Days passed. A week. 10 days. I found a rhythm. Coffee at 8. Walk at 10. Journal at 3. Signed up for a beginner's art class that met Tuesdays and Thursdays in the rec room. The instructor's name was Walter. 70 suspenders, thick glasses. Told the worst dad jokes I've ever heard. But he remembered my name on the second day. One afternoon, he wandered over, squinting at my canvas. "You paint like someone who survived something," he mused. I smiled. "That's because I have." And I meant it. I didn't talk about Ryan. Not to Walter. Not to the group. The past was sealed tight, tucked away like a drawer full of faded letters. Until the letter came. Handwritten. Ryan's messy scrawl across the envelope. Postmarked from a P.O. box outside of Greenville. No return address. Inside, 4 lines. "I know I can't undo what I did. I don't expect anything from you. I just want you to know I'm trying." I named her Emily Linda Becker. I read it twice, folded it neatly, placed it in the same drawer with the now worthless deed. I didn't cry, didn't smile. I just let the words sit. That evening, I walked to the beach, stood barefoot in the sand for over an hour, listening to the waves. Thought about the girl, named after me. Thought about the man who used to be my son. Thought about the boy who once picked me flowers from the neighbor's yard and cried when I scolded him for stealing. That boy was gone. But maybe somewhere out there, someone better was being born from what he ruined. And that wasn't my burden anymore. I turned, walked home. The condo lights glowed soft and golden. I curled up on the couch with a blanket and a library book. No drama, no late-night emails, no family feuds to tiptoe around. Just the quiet, steady sound of someone choosing peace over permission. My phone buzzed once more before I turned it off for the night. Unknown number, no message. I let it fade. Then I whispered the same 5 words I'd been carrying since they pushed me out. No space here either. Goodbye. To this day, I don't know where Ryan and Olivia ended up. Maybe they figured it out. Maybe they didn't. I just know I'm happy now. And that's enough. It's funny the little things that make a place feel like home. It wasn't the fancy kitchen. Lord knows the condo's kitchen barely fit me and my teapot at the same time. It wasn't the view. You had to lean over the balcony railing and squint between buildings to catch a sliver of ocean blue. It wasn't even the neighbors, though. The sweet lady 2 doors down. Mrs. Langley did occasionally bake lemon bars that made you believe in heaven again. It was the silence. Not the lonely kind, the peaceful, earned kind. the kind that wrapped around you like a soft blanket after years of walking on eggshells. I spent my mornings on the balcony sipping tea, listening to the distant waves, watching life unfold below. The boardwalk tourists snapping selfies, the retirees shuffling by with their morning paper, the teenagers loitering near the pier, pretending they weren't still figuring it all out. And me, I was figuring it out too. Only now, I wasn't doing it for anyone else. The art class helped. Walter, with his corny jokes and suspenders that barely clung to his narrow shoulders, had an odd way of making people feel seen. "Your brushstrokes are tight," he told me one day. "Loosen up. You ain't painting your taxes." I snorted, couldn't help it. But he was right. I was still holding tension, still painting like I was preparing for battle. Old habits die hard, I guess. That afternoon, I stopped by the tiny bookstore near the boardwalk, picked up a journal, blue leather cover, a ridiculous price tag for a notebook, but for once, I didn't care. I wrote 3 pages that night. Not about Ryan, not about Olivia, not even about Emily. About me. About the way the salt air made my skin feel different. About the old lady with purple hair who sold sea glass on the pier. About the fact that for the first time in a long time, I didn't wake up with my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. But peace, it turns out, has a sneaky way of making you forget there's still fallout in the rearview mirror. Because the next morning, Diane called. "Everything okay?" I asked. A pause. "You've been mentioned in a podcast," she said carefully. I frowned. "What kind of podcast?" "The influencer kind. Local drama. You're the main character this week." My stomach dipped. Turns out Olivia wasn't done performing. A new platform. Same story. Only this time she'd polished it, left out inconvenient details like the $180,000 I gave them. The loan default. The fact that they schemed to push me out of the house I helped buy. No, this version was smoother. A poor young couple. Pregnant. Struggling, manipulated by a bitter, controlling mother-in-law who weaponized legal loopholes to evict them. The podcast host, some 20-something with a ring light and too much confidence, ate it up. The comments, predictably brutal. Classic boomer behavior. Some people can't handle losing control. She probably wants custody of the baby next. I closed the app, laughed softly to myself. You'd think I'd be angry, but honestly, it was exhausting more than anything. Public debate these days, people don't want the truth. They want content, and I wasn't content. I was a person. But if they wanted a show, I had one last act to deliver. I called the magazine editor, told her to run the follow-up piece. We'd discussed it after the first article, but I'd held off. "You sure?" she asked. "I'm sure," I replied. This wasn't revenge. It was self-defense. The second article hit the following Sunday. When silence isn't enough, how victims of manipulation reclaim their voices. It included my receipts, document scans, financial breakdowns, legal records. All of it balanced, clear, and most importantly, boring. See, facts don't trend, but they linger. The Facebook group simmered down. The podcast episode got quietly pulled. And Olivia. She went radio silent. Ryan, too. I didn't hear from either of them for weeks until the letter arrived. A different P.O. box this time. Same messy handwriting. Inside, a photo. Emily. Chubby cheeks. Tiny fists. Eyes wide, curious, innocent. On the back, 5 words. "She deserves to know you." I traced the outline of her little face with my thumb. Let the photo rest on my counter. But I didn't reach out. Not yet. Because building trust is like painting. You can't rush the strokes. And after everything, I was finally learning to take my time. Time has this funny way of softening the edges of anger. It doesn't erase it. Don't get me wrong. But it rounds off the sharp parts so they don't cut you every time you think about them. Weeks passed. Then a month. The condo started to feel settled. I bought curtains. Real ones, not the stiff motel kind that smell like burnt coffee. Light blue linen that moved when the ocean breeze slipped through the screen door. The peace lily bloomed. The basil plant, well, we can't all thrive under pressure. It withered a little, but I kept watering it anyway. Some things deserve a second chance. I saw Diane a few times at the housing board. Always the same warm smile. Always the quiet understanding that I wasn't just another client. I was someone clawing their way back to solid ground. Walter kept teasing me at art class. "Your skies are still too tense," he told me one Tuesday. "Ain't no thunderstorms in Wilmington this week." I loosened the brush strokes. Let the paint breathe a little. But even with all that quiet, all that healing, The past has a sneaky way of tapping on your shoulder. It showed up in the form of Megan, at my door. Again, this time no baby in tow. No diaper bag, no hidden cameras, at least not that I could see. Just her, pale, shaky, wearing a thrift store hoodie that didn't quite cover how thin she'd gotten. I didn't open the door fully, just enough. "Ryan's gone," she blurted, voice cracking. Gone. My heart skipped. That old protective instinct, the one motherhood brands into your bones, stirred before I could shove it down. "Gone how?" She hesitated. "Not like that," she added quickly. "He left, disappeared, took the last of what little money we had. I haven't seen him in 3 weeks. I didn't speak, didn't react. She wrung her hands, eyes darting around like a scared animal. "I don't want anything from you," she continued. "I swear, I'm alone. Emily's with my mom for a few days. I don't even know why I came here." That was a lie. I could see it in her face. She came because when the ground disappears beneath your feet, you run to the only person still standing, even if you burned that bridge to the ground yourself. "You want help?" I asked, voice calm, steady. "You go to the shelter. You go to your family. You do the work." She nodded, fast, like a child desperate for approval. But I wasn't done. "You don't show up here looking for a shortcut," I added. "You made your choices. Now you live with them." For a moment, I thought she'd argue, beg, but she didn't. She just wilted. "Do you hate me?" she whispered. I let the question sit in the air between us, thought about all the ways I could answer. "Hate's easy, but indifference, that's heavier." "No," I said finally, "but I don't owe you anything either." She nodded, eyes glassy. Turned, walked down the hall. I closed the door, locked it, stood there for a long time, breathing in the silence like medicine. Later that evening, I sat on the balcony, held the photo of Emily in my hands. She didn't ask to be part of this mess, but she was. Somewhere out there, my granddaughter. My name stitched into hers like a thread of history I wasn't ready to pull on yet. Here's the thing most people won't tell you. The public loves a comeback story, but what they forget is, sometimes the real comeback is the one nobody claps for. It's the one where you quietly reclaim your space, where you paint your skies a little softer, where you wake up and realize peace doesn't need applause. It just needs room to breathe. I stayed on that balcony until the stars bled across the sky. The ocean whispered its steady rhythm in the distance, and for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop, because it already had. And I was still standing. The thing about rebuilding your life, it's quiet. No dramatic music swelling in the background. No cinematic reveal. It's routine. It's small wins. It's remembering how to breathe without someone else's judgment filling the room. The condo settled into its own rhythm. Tuesday art classes. Thursday walks on the beach. Weekend farmers markets where the tomatoes always looked prettier than they tasted. I bought a bike, secondhand, seafoam green with a little basket in front. Felt ridiculous riding it the first few times, like I was auditioning for a Hallmark movie, but the breeze on my face, worth it. Walter teased me, of course. "Careful," he grinned at class. "You'll be painting sunsets and writing poetry next." Funny thing, I already was. I kept journaling, pages filled with half-finished thoughts, little sketches, quotes I liked, grocery lists tangled in between. I even wrote Emily's name once, just her name. Couldn't bring myself to write more than that yet. Diane stopped by the condo now and then, always checking in, always gentle. "You're really settling in," she remarked one afternoon, eyeing my overwatered basil plant. "Trying to," I replied. "Trying. That's all any of us can do. But life, real life doesn't stay tidy for long." The letter arrived 2 weeks later. Different handwriting. Tidy. Mail. Formal. Return address. A lawyer's office in Greenville. I opened it, scanned the words once, twice, sat down at the kitchen table. Ryan had filed a petition for parental rights confirmation. Buried in the legal jargon, one thing stood out like neon lights. "We intend to prove that continued estrangement from maternal family members will cause emotional distress to the child." Translation: they were trying to force me into contact. Force a relationship. Not for Emily's sake, for control. The audacity settled over me like a heavy coat. After everything, the lies, the manipulation, the staged social media sob stories, they still thought they could use Emily like a pawn. Old me might have panicked, cried, felt small. But not anymore. I made tea, sat at the table, pulled out my notebook, started listing everything. Dates, documents, witnesses. Walter called it my grandma's spy files, but I wasn't spying. I was protecting. The next day I called my lawyer. She remembered me from the will update, listened patiently as I explained. By the end, she was typing furiously. "They've got no case," she assured me, "but they've got nerve." A quirky fact for you: octopuses, those squishy sea creatures, are escape artists. They can slip through holes the size of a quarter if they're determined enough. Ryan and Olivia, same energy. Slippery, shameless. But even an octopus needs water, and I wasn't giving them any. We filed a formal response, provided documentation, outlined the restraining order history, the financial betrayal, the pattern of manipulation. I even included a statement about Emily. Simple, truthful. I wish her peace. I do not wish to be used as leverage. It wasn't revenge. It was boundaries. The hearing date, 6 weeks away. Plenty of time to prepare. Plenty of time for them to make another move. Because people like that, they always do. The weeks leading up to the hearing passed slower than molasses in January. Every morning I half expected some new drama to show up at my door. A letter, a surprise visit, a sob story splashed across the internet. But nothing. Silence. The good kind? Not exactly. It was the kind of quiet that feels loaded. Like standing outside before a storm when the air's too still and the birds go quiet. Even Walter noticed it. "You're painting nervous," he commented one afternoon, squinting at my canvas. I chuckled despite myself. "Is that a technical term?" "Sure is," he grinned. Tense skies, jittery brush strokes, dead giveaway. I loosened my grip on the brush, let the paint glide a little messier. But inside, I was bracing. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. Laid awake, listening to the ceiling fan hum, the waves faint in the distance, my heart a steady, anxious drumbeat. I thought about Emily, her chubby little cheeks in that photo. The fact that somewhere in this whole mess, a little girl existed who deserved better than to be a prop in her parents' power games. But I wasn't the villain in this story, no matter how hard they tried to paint me as one. And I wasn't going to be their pawn either. The hearing was quiet, clinical, a small courtroom with scuffed floors and tired fluorescent lighting. Ryan showed up alone. No lawyer. No Olivia. He looked smaller. Not physically, but diminished. Deflated. I sat across the room, composed, clutching my copy of the documents like armor. The judge reviewed everything. The restraining order, the financial records, the article clippings. Ryan barely spoke. When the judge finally asked him to clarify his petition, he fumbled, talked in circles about family, about Emily deserving to know her grandmother, about reconciliation. But even he didn't believe it. The judge's eyes sharpened. "Mr. Becker," she said evenly, "this sounds less like concern for your child, and more like an attempt to pressure your mother into contact under legal threat." Ryan's face fell. His shoulders slumped. The petition dismissed. Just like that, court adjourned. I didn't linger. Didn't gloat. I walked out into the sunshine, cool ocean air, brushing my face like a quiet applause. But Ryan caught up to me outside. "Mom," he called softly. I stopped, turned. He looked old. Not physically, just worn down, tired in a way that sleep wouldn't fix. "I didn't want it to be like this," he admitted. I stayed quiet. "You know, when Dad died, I thought I was supposed to be the man of the family. Take care of you, of Olivia, of everything." His voice cracked slightly. "But I was just scared and stupid." It wasn't an apology. Not really. But it was something. A sliver of the boy I used to know, peeking through the cracks of the man he became. I nodded once. "Figure yourself out," I told him gently. "But I'm done being part of the mess." His eyes glistened. He didn't argue, didn't beg, just nodded. Turned, walked away. I watched him go, didn't chase after him, didn't feel triumphant, but I felt steady. That night I sat on my balcony. The little blue shell from the pier rested beside my teacup. The waves whispered below. I thought about Emily, the life ahead of her, the life ahead of me, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I let myself believe. Maybe peace wasn't just a temporary visitor. Maybe it was home. A month passed. The hearing felt like a lifetime ago. The quiet settled in, not like an awkward pause, but like the kind of stillness you earn after weathering every storm, after fighting every fight, after realizing not every battle deserves your energy. The condo became mine. I painted the bedroom a soft sage green, bought real towels, the plush, oversized kind that make you feel like you're staying in a fancy hotel, even when you're just standing barefoot on your cheap bathroom tiles. I learned the names of the neighbors. Mrs. Langley with her lemon bars and conspiracy theories about the HOA president. Tony, the retired Navy guy who fixed bikes for the neighborhood kids. And Walter, well, Walter became more than just the art instructor. He became a friend. Retirement ain't half bad when you've got company, he joked one afternoon as we sat at the little cafe near the pier, watching tourists wrestle with their sun hats in the wind. I smiled. It felt good to laugh without looking over my shoulder, to breathe without that constant squeeze in my chest. But healing's funny. It shows up when you least expect it, usually wrapped in something uncomfortable. For me, it came in the form of a small, crumpled envelope wedged in my mailbox one breezy Thursday morning. No return address, just my name in shaky handwriting. Inside, a photo. Emily, older now, chubby arms, messy curls, gummy smile so wide it almost hurt to look at. A note scribbled on the back. She says Nana now. I sat down on the porch steps, photo trembling in my hand. Tears, almost. But they stayed where they were, somewhere deep buried under the years of disappointment and silence. Here's the hard truth. No one likes to admit sometimes love isn't enough. Not to fix what's broken. Not to erase betrayal. Not to patch over the cracks people leave when they disappoint you over and over. But love, it lingers. Quiet, complicated, uninvited. I placed the photo on the table beside my seashell, the blue one with the silver edges, and let it sit. I didn't call Ryan, didn't respond. But for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to run from the ache either. Later that day, Diane stopped by. She noticed the photo. "Grandbaby?" she asked gently. I nodded. "Complicated," she added. I laughed, sharp but quiet. "Isn't everything?" We sat outside for a while, watched the clouds roll by like lazy cotton balls drifting across the sky. Old age teaches you a lot. That time softens but never erases. That people rarely change overnight. That sometimes choosing peace means choosing distance. But it also teaches you to hold space for possibility. Not expectation, not hope wrapped in delusion. Just space. Enough room for the good to surprise you. For forgiveness to creep in when it's earned, not when it's demanded. For now, that was enough. I stood stretched and walked inside. Placed the photo in the drawer beside the old deed and court documents. Closed it softly. Tomorrow I'd water the plants. Paint a new sky. Maybe this time, with less tension. There's a funny thing that happens when you stop letting chaos rent space in your life. The quiet starts teaching you things you never noticed before, like how the sea breeze changes direction around noon, or how the neighbor's dog barks exactly 3 times every evening before curling up under the porch light, or how some wounds stop bleeding long before they ever fully heal. I fell into that rhythm. Art class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, bike rides to the little market on Saturdays, mornings spent with coffee and the paper reading headlines I could finally ignore, because for once, none of them were about me. Walter, bless his chatty soul, had me painting ocean scenes now. "You can't live near the coast and keep avoiding water on canvas," he teased, nudging my brush hand. I tried. Tentative at first. Waves came out clunky, the sky still stiff. But little by little, it loosened. Funny how that happens with life, too. But the past always knows where to find you. It showed up again 3 weeks later. A knock at my door. I peeked through the peephole, expecting maybe Mrs. Langley or Tony needing help with a package. But it wasn't them. It was Olivia. Again. This time, alone. No hidden cameras, no infant in tow, no pity party eyes. She looked different. Tired, sure, but steadier. I cracked the door. "Before you say anything," she began, "I'm not here to ask for help, or money, or anything." I raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "I'm here to apologize." Now I've heard apologies before. The performance ones. The manipulative ones. The kind that taste like regret but smell like strategy. But this felt raw, genuine in that shaky, uncomfortable human way. "I was awful to you," she admitted, eyes glassy. "I was scared. Stupid. Selfish." A pause. "Ryan left," she added. "For good this time." My heart tugged, but I kept my face steady. He's not coming back. She shook her head. Signed over parental rights. Took off to, she gestured vaguely wherever men with bruised egos and no accountability run to. I bit back a sharp comment. Growth, I guess. I've been working, she continued. Part-time. Got an apartment. It's small, but clean. Emily's safe. That's all I care about now. She reached into her purse, pulled out an envelope. This isn't a guilt trip, she added quickly. It's photos of her. For you, if you want them. I hesitated, because the truth is forgiveness isn't neat. It's messy, slow, stubborn, but it starts somewhere. I opened the door a little wider, took the envelope. Inside, a stack of photos. Emily, messy curls wild in the wind eyes, bright smile wide. A little girl innocent of the choices her parents made. She deserves good people in her life, Olivia whispered. If you ever want, no pressure, just think about it. I nodded, didn't promise, didn't decide, just acknowledged. She left, quiet, no dramatics, no stage tears, just left. I stood at the window watching her disappear down the walkway, the photos clutched to my chest. Here's an old age truth for you. The strongest fences are the ones you build with both hands. And I wasn't ready to tear mine down. But maybe, just maybe, I could leave a gate unlocked for Emily, for myself, for possibility. The photo sat on my counter for days. Each time I walked by, I traced her little smile with my fingertips. I didn't rush, didn't panic, didn't run. Because this time, the story was mine to tell, and I wasn't handing the pen to anyone else. The first time I heard Emily's voice, it wasn't in person. It was in a video, a quiet little clip Olivia sent weeks after that doorstep conversation. No grand introduction, no guilt-laced plea, just a short, wobbly video file in my inbox subject line, if you ever want to hear her. My fingers hovered over the mouse for a long time before I clicked play. The screen filled with Emily's round face, chubby cheeks, curls, wild eyes, the kind of blue you only see in children before life starts shading them with doubt. She sat cross-legged on a faded quilt, stacking colorful plastic blocks with intense toddler focus. And then, clear as a bell, she looked up toward whoever held the phone and announced Nana. I pressed pause, sat there blinking at the screen like it might bite me. It's funny. For all the manipulation, all the scheming, all the betrayal that had passed between me and Olivia, there was still this undeniable thread connecting me to that little girl. Blood, history, possibility. But threads, they're fragile. And I wasn't about to weave myself back into a tangled mess just because a toddler knew my name. Still, the sound of her voice clung to me all day. It followed me to the market, to art class, even onto the boardwalk, where Walter spotted my distant stare and chuckled. Thinking about waves again, Carla, he teased, adjusting his paint-streaked suspenders. Something like that, I muttered, forcing a smile. But it wasn't the ocean I was thinking about. It was choice. The choice to stay guarded, or to cautiously unlock that fence I'd built around my life. 2 days later, I replied to the email. Thank you for the video. I'm not ready for more. Yet. But I appreciate it. No promises. No warmth I didn't feel. Just honesty. And you know what? That honesty felt better than any forced reunion ever could. Weeks rolled by. The photos stayed tucked in a drawer with the others, the ones from Olivia, the old ones of Ryan as a boy, even the faded snapshots of Mark holding Ryan as a newborn, exhausted but beaming. Some nights I'd pull them out, flip through them with steady fingers and a steady heart. And when I did, the ache was still there. But so was the peace. Life isn't neat, it's layered. Some days you feel strong. Other days you sit on your balcony with a cup of tea watching seagulls bicker over crusts of bread, wondering how it all got so complicated. I found a new rhythm. Volunteering at the library. Painting landscapes that still looked a little tense, but softer now. Even joined a book club, mostly retirees, mostly gossip. Barely any literature, but it made Tuesday evenings pass quicker. The condo still mine. Quiet. Safe. Untangled. Then last week another envelope arrived. No letter this time. Just a single photo. Emily again, standing in front of a tiny sandbox, holding a plastic shovel like it was the greatest treasure on earth. On the back, Olivia had scrawled, "She asks for you at bedtime." My hands shook, not from fear, not from anger, but from the weight of all that, almost. The almost family we could have been. The almost peace that could have existed sooner. But almost isn't enough to rewrite history. And I wasn't rewriting mine. Not for guilt, not for show, but maybe for her. Because old age doesn't mean closing every door. It means learning which ones are worth cracking open and which ones stay locked for your own survival. I placed the photo beside the blue seashell. Let it sit. No decisions, no plans, just space. Space for life to unfold. Messy, imperfect, but maybe better than before. There's something about the ocean that teaches you patience. The waves never rush. They never argue with the tide. They just show up again and again. I've started to think healing works the same way. It's not a big moment, not a dramatic made-for-TV confrontation. It's small. It's subtle. It's stubborn. Just like the waves. 3 months have passed since that last photo of Emily arrived. I never replied, but I didn't throw it away either. It sits by my window right beside that little blue seashell with the silver edges catching the sunlight in the mornings. I didn't reach out to Olivia, but I didn't block her number again. Progress, maybe. Guarded progress, definitely. Walter likes to say old age gives you 2 choices: become bitter or become better. I'm still figuring out which one I'm aiming for. But I know this much. I'm not bitter enough to close the door entirely. And I'm not naive enough to open it wide either. The days slip by in their quiet little rhythm. Art class. Walks along the beach. Coffee at the pier with Walter, who's now determined to teach me how to paint proper clouds. Your skies still look anxious, he teases. Loosen up, Becker. I try. And every day, it gets a little easier. Even the nightmares have faded, the ones where Ryan's voice echoes with disappointment, where Olivia's passive-aggressive digs sting sharper than they ever did in real life. Gone. Replaced by soft mornings and sea salt air. The other day, Mrs. Langley from next door invited me over for tea. She rambled about HOA meetings and her conspiracy theory that Tony, the bike fixer, is secretly ex-CIA. I laughed. Not forced, not polite, a real laugh. And in that small, ridiculous moment, I realized I'm okay. Not perfect. Not untouched by what happened. But okay. And maybe, just maybe, that's all I ever needed to be. Later that evening, I stood on the balcony. The sunset poured across the horizon, painting the clouds with orange and lavender streaks that Walter would definitely scold me for not capturing properly. I held my phone in my hand. Thumb hovered over Olivia's name. I didn't press call. But I didn't delete it either, because old age doesn't mean you stop feeling. It just means you finally learn when to sit with those feelings and when to act. The ocean whispered below. The breeze tugged at my hair. The little blue seashell caught the last sliver of sunlight, and for the first time in what felt like years, I believed I had space. My space, not given by anyone else, not borrowed, not conditional, mine. And no matter where Ryan ended up, no matter how Olivia chooses to rewrite her story, no matter what Emily learns of me one day, that space, that peace, it's mine, and that is enough. Funny how life never hands you closure with a neat little bow, isn't it? It comes in the quiet, in the stillness, in the moments when you stand alone on a balcony, tea in hand, salt air brushing against your cheeks, and realize you made it. Not unscathed. Not untouched, but here. And sometimes, that's the biggest victory of all. I've learned a few things walking through the ashes of what I thought family meant. I've learned that love, when tangled with control, becomes a weapon. That silence, when chosen, becomes armor. That peace isn't handed to you. It's built brick by stubborn brick with every boundary you refuse to let others bulldoze. And most of all, I've learned that being erased only works if you stop writing your own story. I didn't stop. They tried to make me small, disposable, quiet. But here I am, living, choosing softness without surrender, choosing distance without bitterness, choosing me. The ocean keeps rolling in steady as ever, and maybe one day Emily will stand on this same sand, hearing its song, feeling its patience, understanding its lessons. Maybe not. That part's not mine to control. But this small sunlit life I've carved out, it's enough. And if you're still here, still listening, maybe it's time you chose your peace too. Because no one else can hand it to you. You have to claim it, softly, steadily, and unapologetically.